What if I told you one of the most beautiful Ferraris ever made was not officially sold as a Ferrari? That sounds ridiculous, but it's true. This is the Ferrari Dino, or to be more accurate, the Dino 206 GT and the Dino 246 GT, a car that started life as Ferrari's smaller sports car, the junior model, the cheaper car, the entry point, the one that didn't even wear the full Ferrari badge in the beginning. And yet today it's one of the most loved, most desirable and most beautiful cars ever connected to the Ferrari name. I think I was probably about 13 when the Persuaders came on the TV. Brett Sinclair and Danny Wilde, Roger Moore and Tony Curtis, and they were on the French Riviera. Brett in his Aston Martin. And I always remember it now. Danny got off the plane, Ferrari Dino waiting for him, he paid the guy, emptied his cash out of his wallet, and then they met up and there was this race. And I fell in love with that Ferrari Dino. Most beautiful car, apart from the Lamborghini Miura, the Daytona, and I've got a real liking for the De Tomaso Pantera as well. Guess what I call my dog? Dino. Dino turned out to be my favourite thing in the whole world. So I would have to say that although those four cars were equal first, Dino lives in my heart. So does the car. And even the story behind the Dino from Ferrari's point of view. It wasn't just about horsepower. It wasn't just about speed. And it wasn't just about money. It's about Enzo Ferrari. It's about his son. It's about a V6 engine. And it's about a car that Ferrari almost seemed afraid to call a Ferrari. But the world eventually decided was one of the greatest Ferraris of all time. Let's talk about the Ferrari Dino. The car with one of the most emotional stories in motoring history. First of all, why is it called Dino? The name Dino comes from Alfredo Ferrari. He was Enzo Ferrari's son, but everyone knew him as Dino. Alfredo Ferrari was deeply involved in engineering, and he had a particular interest in smaller V6 engines. Ferrari, of course, was famous for big V12 engines. That was the brand's identity. That was the magic. That was what customers expected. But Dino Ferrari helped push the idea of smaller, higher revving V6 engines. Sadly, Dino died in 1956, 2 years before I was born, at just 24 years old. So when Ferrari later used the Dino name, it was not just a badge, it was a tribute, a deeply personal tribute from Enzo Ferrari to his son. And that's what gives this car a completely different emotional weight. This wasn't just another Ferrari model. This was a car carrying the name of Enzo Ferrari's child. Not Ferrari, Dino. A name, a memory, a legacy. And that alone makes this car special before you even start the engine. Now, to understand the Dino, you have to understand where Ferrari was in the 1960s. Ferrari was known for big, dramatic, front-engined V12 Grand Tourers, cars like the 250 GT, the 275 GTB, the 330, and later the Daytona. These were serious machines, long bonnets, big engines, huge presence, proper old-school Ferrari glamour. But the sports car world was changing. In racing, the mid-engine layout was becoming the future. Put the engine behind the driver and you get better balance, better handling, better grip, better performance. The racing world had already worked it out. But Enzo Ferrari was cautious. One of his quotes, I think, in the past, aerodynamics are for people who can't make engines. I like Enzo, and I'm pretty sure I would have liked Dino too. He wasn't immediately convinced that powerful mid-engined road cars were a good idea for ordinary customers. So Ferrari needed a way to experiment. A smaller car, a smaller engine, a different badge. And that's where the Dino came in. It allowed Ferrari to test the mid-engine idea without putting the full Ferrari V12 reputation on the line. And in hindsight, that experiment became one of the most important cars Ferrari ever made. The first production road-going Dino was the Dino 206 GT. It arrived in 1967, and compared with Ferrari's big V12 cars, it was completely different. It had a 2-litre V6 engine, not a V12, a V6. It was mounted behind the driver, and it produced around 180 horsepower. A modern hot hatch can beat that. Some electric family cars can make that look absolutely ordinary. But in the late 1960s, this was something very special, because the Dino was not about brute force. It was about balance. It was about lightness. It was about the feel. It was about being lower, compact, beautifully balanced, and incredibly elegant. This wasn't a muscle car. It wasn't big. It wasn't a big shouty supercar. It wasn't trying to intimidate you. It was something much more delicate, much more beautiful, much more Italian. The Dino 206 GT looked less like a car that had been designed with a ruler and more like something that had been sculpted by hand. The shape was by Pininfarina, and it's absolutely stunning. The rounded wings, the soft curves, the compact cabin, the rear haunches, everything just flows. It's one of those cars where you struggle to find a bad angle. And even today, park a Dino next to most modern supercars, and the Dino still looks expensive. I went to a classic car show last week. There was a blue Dino. By the time I'd got parked, the Dino had gone. I was gutted, absolutely gutted. 1,000 cars there. Dino, straight to it. I wanted to see it. And he'd gone. I was absolutely flipping, heartbroken almost. So it's not because the Dino's aggressive, not because it's covered in carbon fibre, not because it has a giant wing on the back and big angry vents, but because it has something far rarer: taste, subtlety. Then in 1969 came the Dino 246 GT, and this is the version most people think of when they hear the words Ferrari Dino. The engine grew from 2 litres to 2.4 litres, power increased to around 195 horsepower, and the car gained a little more muscle, but it still kept the magic. It was still compact, still achingly beautiful, still mid-engine, still powered by a high-revving V6, and still wonderfully pure. The Dino 246 was never about winning a modern-day numbers war. It wasn't about 0 to 60 bragging rights. It wasn't about launch control. It wasn't about computerized performance. It was about the experience, the steering, the gear shift, the engine note, the balance, the feeling that you were driving something mechanical, something alive, something that you were part of, something that needed you to pilot it. In a modern supercar, the computers are often doing half the work. In a Dino, you are the computer. You carry the speed. You manage the momentum. You feel the weight move. You listen to the engine before you change gear. You use the gearbox. You drive it properly. And that's why enthusiasts love these cars so much. And this is why the drivers of today who think an electric car drives fantastic, I feel sorry for them. They've missed out. They don't know what it's like to drive properly, to enjoy it, to be part of the car, to feel part of the car, to feel the weight shift when you're going down a country lane. Let the accelerator off, the car moves, the weight transfers. I do feel sorry for them, and I realise, and I think this is why people of today are so angry, especially the EV brigade. Because speed's easy today, but character, all the cars look the same. Character's rare. The Dino is full of character. It oozes character. Here's one of the most interesting parts of the whole story. Why was it not officially called a Ferrari? Because when the Dino was new, Ferrari didn't market it as a full Ferrari in the way we'd expect today. It sat under the separate Dino brand. The reason was simple. Ferrari was associated with V12 engines. That was the premium image. That was the serious Ferrari identity. And the Dino had a V6, smaller engine, a lower price point, a different purpose. So it wore Dino badges, not the full Ferrari identity. I'd kind of have to disagree with that. I think Enzo called it the Dino because he was heartbroken that he'd lost his son, and because he wanted to immortalise him in one of his cars. Dino Ferrari, Ferrari Dino. At the time that probably made sense. Ferrari wanted to protect the Ferrari name. Again, I don't believe it was that. They didn't want people thinking a smaller V6 car was the same as the big V12 flagship. But history has a sense of humour, because today the Dino is absolutely seen as part of Ferrari royalty. In fact, that's one of the things that makes it so fascinating. Ferrari tried to keep it slightly separate from the main Ferrari badge, and it ended up becoming one of the most loved Ferraris ever made. That's the sort of branding mistake every car company would love to make. I don't think it was a branding mistake. But the public decided, collectors decided, enthusiasts decided, the Dino belongs in the Ferrari story. And it's not just a footnote. It's one of the stars. The Dino is quite simply gorgeous. Some cars age, some cars date, some cars become trapped in the decade they came from. But the Dino did something different. It became timeless. Look at the front of it. The tiny nose, beautiful headlights, soft curves, low bonnet. Then your eye travels down the side, over the front wing, through the door shape and into the rear haunches. It has perfect proportions. It's the Sydney Sweeney of cars. It's small but exotic, pretty but still purposeful, elegant but still fast looking. There's no aggression for the sake of aggression, no fake drama, no pointless styling gimmicks. It's just beautiful. And that's why the Dino still looks so special today. A modern supercar often has to shout at you to get your attention. The Dino doesn't need to shout. It just arrives. And everyone who understands cars gives it their full attention. This is the sort of car you could park outside a hotel in Monaco, back to the Persuaders, with modern Lamborghinis, modern Ferraris, modern McLarens around it, and the real car people would walk straight past them to look at the Dino, because the Dino has class, and class doesn't go out of fashion. Then there's the Dino 246 GTS, the open top version, and if the 246 GT is the pure coupe, the GTS is the Riviera dream. Removable roof panel, mid-mounted V6, Italian styling, manual gearbox, sunshine, sea views, leather interior. Imagine driving one along the coast in the south of France. Again, the Persuaders. Danny Wilde. The engine behind your head, the roof off, the smell of warm leather, the sound of carburetors. No screens, no driver modes, no fake engine noise, no touch sensitive nonsense. Just a beautiful car on a beautiful road doing exactly what cars like this were built to do. That's Billionaire Dreams motoring. Not because it screams money, but because it whispers taste and honesty. And that's even better. By modern standards, the Dino's not brutally fast. It's not going to embarrass a modern hypercar. It's not going to beat electric performance cars in a straight line. And it's not going to give you some ridiculous 1,000 horsepower headline. But that completely misses the point. The Dino comes from a different world, a better world in some ways. A world where cars were judged by how they felt, the emotion of driving one, not just how fast they were on paper. The Dino gives you steering feel, gear shift feel, noise, balance, smell, texture. It gives you the sensation of driving. And that matters because modern performance has become almost too easy. You press a button, the gearbox changes instantly. The traction control sorts everything out. The computers save you. The car flatters bad drivers. But in a Dino, You are involved. You have to listen, you have to work with it, you have to drive. And that's why cars like this are becoming more desirable, not less. People want to get back to this era because the world's moved on so far that old-fashioned mechanical charm has become a luxury. Why do collectors love the Dino? Well, there's several reasons. First and most obvious, the looks. It's one of the most beautiful cars ever associated with Ferrari. Second, the story. The Dino name connects directly to Enzo Ferrari's son. That gives it an emotional backstory. Most cars simply don't have that. Third, the engineering. It was Ferrari's early step into mid-engine road cars. And that matters because after the Dino, the mid-engine Ferrari became a huge part of the company's identity. Think about what came later. The 308, the 328, the 348, the F355, the 360, the F430, the 458, the 488, the F8. That whole bloodline owes something to the Dino. The Dino helped prove that a mid-engine Ferrari road car could work, and not just work, but become iconic. Fourth, the badge story. The fact that it wasn't originally treated as a full Ferrari now makes it even more interesting. It gives the car mystery. It gives it a talking point. It gives it a little bit of rebellion, rarity, especially the earlier 206 GT. These cars were never mass-produced in the way modern performance cars are. They were special then, and they're even more special now. There's a wonderful irony to the Dino. When it was new, some people looked down on it. They saw it as the smaller Ferrari, the baby Ferrari, the cheaper Ferrari. They're not quite so Ferrari. It was the junior model, the V6 car, the one without the big V12 engine. And now the best examples are serious collector cars, the kind of cars wealthy collectors fight over, the kind of cars that sit in climate-controlled garages, the kind of cars that appear at concourse events, the kind of cars that make people stop and stare and quietly say, that is just beautiful. That's the ultimate classic car revenge story. The car that was once seen as the cheaper way into the Ferrari world became one of the most desirable cars in the Ferrari world. Not because it's the fastest, not because it's the loudest, not because it has the biggest engine, but because it has something more important. It has soul. That's what makes the Dino so special. A truly great car is not just a collection of numbers. It's not just horsepower. It's not just top speed. It's not just price. And it's not just a badge. A truly great car has a story. And the Dino has one of the best stories in motoring. The world made its mind up because today nobody serious looks at a Dino and says, that's not a proper Ferrari, mate. They look at it and say, that might be one of the most beautiful Ferraris ever made. And they're right. The Ferrari Dino is not just a classic car, it's a tribute, a love letter, a turning point, a design masterpiece, and one of those rare machines that proves billionaire taste is not always about having the newest thing, or the fastest thing, or the loudest thing. Sometimes the real dream car is smaller, older, prettier, more delicate, more emotional, something with history, something with beauty, something with a story. And the Dino has all of that. It's not just a car, it's one of the most romantic machines ever connected to Ferrari. A car born from grief, built with genius, wrapped in beauty, and finally recognised as the masterpiece it always was. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.